Okay, all set. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors meeting, again via Zoom, June 24th, 2020. As usual, we'll have a moment of silence, and again, I'll say to remember those who have been affected by this virus and their families, the heroes out there, the nurses, doctors, first responders, police, fire, EMTs, and again, all those that serve the public, from those that bring your food to those that check you out at the supermarket, and also for those that collect your garbage on a daily basis. May we all pray for them and others. And as we get through this, just to remember that we still should be safe and take all precautions. So if we could just take a moment of silence. And a pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Lewis, any changes or additions to the agenda?
There are no changes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have no special actions today. Any public comment today, Mr. Lewis?
I have two public comments, one of which actually has to do with an item that's on the agenda, so I will wait until that item is discussed to read this public comment.
Okay.
But the first is from John D. April, 118 Broadleaf Place, Newtown, Grant, the biggest and the best. It says, do a good job. That means you too, Johnny Mack, elected official to Newtown Township, not the borough. Get back soon to regular meetings. Remember, I am watching. More residents in the Grant than the borough. Do you understand that, Mr. Mack? And that's the only public comment I have right now.
I don't think that warrants a response, right, Mr. Mack? You okay? We'll just move on. Yes, next on the agenda is no minor approvals, public hearing. So we go, is Alan here for the Planning Commission report?
I think Mr. Fiddler had previous obligations until 1:30 or so. So
Okay.
either we can push this off, or I can read the synopsis as of right now, or we can just wait and see if he gets here.
Well, why don't we wait and see if he, pops on. Don't want to take his thunder away from him. But how about the Economic Development Committee? Is there anyone here for that?
I do not see anyone here for that.
Okay.
Well, Eric, what's his name, was supposed to be here. He was elected the chairperson. I don't know if he forgot or what.
Eric Gold, yeah.
Eric Gold, yeah.
Does someone want to read it? Or, I mean, it looks like a short synopsis there.
Do I have it?
I think we all have it in our packet.
Oh, it's in the packets. I can read it if you'd like.
Go right ahead.
Okay. The synopsis of the meeting of June 18th, 2020 from the Newtown Economic Development Committee. Present were Joe Blackburn, Mary Donaldson, Eric Scott Gold, Karen Miller, Matt Peters, William Sheffer, and Richard Weaver. EDC members and Supervisor Mack met via Zoom for the first meeting of the EDC on June 18th, 2020. Eric Gold and Matt Peters were elected co-chairman, and Mary Donaldson was elected secretary. The members discussed current restrictions due to the pandemic and ways that the township through this committee could help businesses recover, rebuild under new pandemic regulations in the yellow and green phases. We discussed ways to help businesses through the township's permitting procedures for such accommodations such as restaurant outdoor seating, erecting tents and sidewalk sales tables for retail. Other considerations were relaxation of signage restrictions on a temporary basis to alert the public of business openings and altered business hours of operation. The members spent considerable time discussing a possible inaugural event to promote businesses, an outdoor movie night at Newtown's amphitheater. This event would take place on open space near Iron Hill Brewery. Members will also work with representatives of the shopping center and the township to put together this event with cooperation of Mr. Gold's event company. We will also monitor the event's success and attempt a series of similar events throughout the township's commercial districts. We will also monitor other municipalities' events, being mindful of ongoing restrictions during the pandemic as we pass into the green phase of reopening. Looking ahead, the committee will try to contact our community's many businesses, both in the commercial and professional business areas, to learn their concerns and how the township can help.
Okay. Yeah, I watched the meeting. It was a very, very good. Seemed to be moving along. The only issue I have is that I don't know how they would have any kind of concert or music without the ambient music spilling over, and also probably upsetting some of the restaurants that wanted outside music. I would suggest doing it in a remote area, maybe in one of our fields, if that's what they intend to do. And also, Mr. Gold's company would be handling this. I mean, I find that as a conflict a little bit.
He suggested the movie option. He's going to be doing movies throughout. Like, he also suggested working with homeowners associations. And Mr. Blackburn, who was at this meeting, indicated that the amphitheater is private property and probably not regulated by the township. It has nothing to do with speakers from restaurants. It would be totally their activity, sponsored by them. Okay. And I mean, I guess you should take that up with Mr. Blackburn.
Well, maybe we should have somebody from the Economic Development Committee be the point person for any complaints that come in. And plus, again, I see that using a person that is on the committee, using their company to be promoting this, seems to be a conflict of a little bit of a conflict of interest.
Well, he's donating his time and equipment. He's not charging for it. So
I hear you, but it's also promoting your business, and you know, that's maybe an outside business should be taking care of this. Also, I did notice one good thing that the two co-chairs did walk around to different businesses in the area, but the only thing I'd have to say is they all seem to be restaurants. Economic Development Committee goes beyond the scope of restaurants and should be looking at other businesses also. But it was a good move. I think it was a good start. And yeah, I mean, I think they're promoting good ideas. It's just that some are, you know, have to be within the parameters of fairness to the township and to other people's businesses too. So.
If I may I make a quick comment?
Sure.
I believe that there would be an application process if there is some kind of special event. There'd have to be something that's run, you know, some paperwork that's due to the township to do that, I would believe.
But this is private property, isn't it?
Well, it's still a special event. I mean, would they need a special event permit, Micah?
I would need to look into that to be able to answer that question. It doesn't appear so, but they would still need to provide us with information of what they're proposing to do within that area, so that we can be sure that there's enough safety precautions, if there's mitigation for sound, etc.
And speaking of restaurants with outdoor speakers, you should check some of the restaurants there if you're concerned about that, because I've seen speakers.
Well, then that's within their land development contract, so they should not be breaking that rule. I understand this is a private property and they want to have music there or whatever they want to do, but what's to stop every day having music there. I think we're setting a precedent by letting this happen. But if it's okay with everyone, I don't care. Like I said, somebody on that board will be handling the complaints as they come in. Maybe Mr. Blackburn, he's an attorney, so he might know how to handle complaints. So,
Well, correct. The complaint should go to Brixmore, who owns the property.
well, how about the people that are performing the function? If I'm out there playing loud music, and they're complaining about me, and the Economic Development Committee was the one that had this idea and approved having this, then someone from the Economic Development Committee should answer those questions.
Now, I don't think they should be responsible for that.
We're getting beyond the scope here. It hasn't even
Well,
happened,
you brought it up. I don't know why you brought it up.
because I think it's a very important thing. I think
Well, then let's talk about it.
let's get on to something else here, John. All right, board members' reports. As a matter of fact, this coincides with the economic, and then I'll let you have, you could go on a filibuster all you want. In regards to the Economic Development Committee, I would like to appoint as
What a joke.
Mr. Oxley as the liaison to the
Jesus
Economic
Christ.
Development Committee. I could hear you, John. Why don't you mute yourself?
Good.
Mr. Oxley, would you like that liaison position?
That'd be fine, thank you.
Okay. You would have to ask Olivia to coordinate the meeting dates. Now, this doesn't eliminate any supervisors from attending these meetings. Anyone can go. It's just Mr. Oxley, technically the point person for between the Economic Development Committee and the Board of Supervisors. Okay. Vice Chairman's report.
Let me unmute myself. Good, very good. Just a couple of things, and I'm just kind of excited that by the weekend we'll be in the green phase and we'll be able to do a few more things that we haven't, like get haircuts for those who need it. I just yes, David. As we go into this, it's not gonna be business as usual. It's gonna be a new normal, and I just would like. I know that my family plans to persevere in social distancing and wearing our masks and staying out of trying to stay out of real large groups, and doing things outside when there's an alternative, or virtually when there's an alternative, rather than having groups of people meeting inside. And I just hope everyone can see that a little bit of short-term inconvenience will get us to a better place in the long term. One other thing, since I've been reporting about the Nob Hill and Devonshire sewer replacement, I can report that despite some concrete issues which continue, they are paving, doing the restoration work on the pavement, where they put in the new sewer lines and dug up the street. So the paving is happening. I can look out my window and see it from here. Other than that, the Finance Committee will be meeting hopefully before our next Board of Supervisors meeting, and we'll be able to give a report.
Thank you, Dennis. Mr. Mack, you're up. Go ahead.
Okay, time for my filibuster. At the June 10th, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting, the chair asked me to contact Keystone regarding the Bucks County Tax Assessment Board and EIT complaint by a resident. I did that and was informed that the TCC, it's called, I forget what that stands for, only meets 4 times a year, this committee. The last meeting was scheduled for April 30th, but canceled because of the quarantine. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 8/31 at 4 p.m. at the Warwick Township Building. I was put on the notification list and hope to bring this matter up before the TCC at that meeting. And that's it for that. Was that okay, Phil? I mean, you asked me to do that.
No, you got the pertinent information. That's all you can do.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just would like to say something about the June 17th, the Human Relations Commission meeting on racism. And I note that we received a couple of applicants for that commission, and I know that Mercy Ingram has resigned because she's moving. So I just want to know if we can accept the applications that we've received, but we can talk about that when it's appropriate. But I attended this June 17th meeting, and the main item on the agenda was a discussion of priorities and action items to combat racism in Newtown. More than 25 people attended this meeting, including several members of the Newtown Borough Council, sorry, John DeApril, and its Human Relations Commission. The discussion focused on several ideas to achieve the goal of ensuring that there is no place for racism in Newtown, Township, and Borough. I'm sorry to say, John DeApril. Some action items I just would like to mention is coordination between the Township and the Borough Human Relations Commission to work together. Sorry, John DeApril. And to work with the Peace Center and Bucks County Community College to host events. The town hall meeting with the Newtown Chief of Police, John Hearn, was also discussed, and I'll let maybe Mr. Oxley give us an update on that. I talked to Mr. Oxley recently about that. Some other action items have to do with addressing racism issues in schools. And I don't know if I mentioned, I did talk to Mr. Ed Tate, who's on the school board and involved in the curriculum of the schools. And I'm supposed to be a liaison with the Council Rock School District. So I will follow up with him about those issues. Build awareness in our communities through the showing of movies and discussions afterwards. And I guess this was the same person who suggested movies at the amphitheater. Organize book club discussion groups. And hopefully, perhaps the township can help promote some of these activities through its cable TV network. I know we run things 24 hours a day, I think, on those two channels. And we also have a quarterly newsletter that people hope something can be put in that about any special event relating to this. And that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mack. Can I just wanted to say something about the Human Relations Commission, and just feeling that maybe we should accept more or give a chance to accept more resumes, maybe extend it to say the week before our second meeting in July. And this way, if we get any more, who knows if we'll get any, but at least give people a chance or to submit something if they have an intent to be on that committee. So I would say let's hold off on making any appointments till July, if that's okay.
Will we put out a notice on the website, I guess, about that?
Yeah. Micah, you could get Olivia to put something out there on our website and in our television station.
Yeah, we can get something up.
Okay, great. Okay.
I know I'd appreciate that because I just opened the emails this morning. So thank you.
Sure.
It gives me a chance to read them.
Okay. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the Park and Rec report. We have some virtual programs and camps coming up. There's a piano mini and online driver's education and engineering for kids and mad science. And those are all virtual programs and camps. We also have other upcoming programs, preschool dance camp, BCBA Future Stars camp, chess camp, summer art camp, super soccer stars, and basic dog training. And that's all for the Park and Rec report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Oxley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, I met with Matthew Weintraub, Bucks County District Attorney, at his office. We talked about the current state of the, what he thinks is best in terms of policing in Bucks County. And we talked about strategies on community policing so that, maybe our officers are a little bit more in tune with the community they serve. I enjoyed that meeting quite a bit and look forward to building a good working relationship between Newtown Township and our DA in Bucks County. I attended a Peace Center breakfast fundraiser where listened to the Peace Center talk about all the positive work they do within schools and different organizations to build up a proper community where, we discuss people's challenges from whatever prejudices they have and try and provide a new outlook for those individuals. So the Peace Center is doing a great job, and look forward to supporting them. We've got a meeting with them coming up to see how we can integrate a little bit more efforts with our Council Rock School District. I did also have a meeting with Mr. Mack yesterday to talk about upcoming town hall meeting that we're going to have with members of the community and some of our local police officers, including Chief Hearn as a facilitator of that town hall. And we're still building on that. We have to coordinate time to meet with Chief Hearn and Micah to discuss a date that makes sense and to put it out publicly, and logistics of making sure that people are comfortable during the pandemic to come into the meeting room to do that. I spoke with Mr. Lewis yesterday, and he's going to get back to me with a date and time that works well for the chief and him as well. And I'd like to just say that I'm honored and thankful to be appointed as the liaison to the Economic Development Committee. Looking forward to working with that board and also just providing them some insight, but listening more or less. And I'm happy to get guidance from my other supervisors who have been doing it a long time. So whoever would like to attend, more welcome to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure their conversation with the district attorney, you could parlay that into your meeting with the chief, or, in regards to what he mentioned.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, let's, I see Mr. Fiddler has popped on, so let's get to Alan to read his synopsis of the Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Phil. I'm sorry I was a little late for the meeting, but I had a prior commitment. The synopsis for the June 16, 2020 meeting was held by, I have it in front of me, and we did continue to meet via Zoom. The first bit of business was the zoning hearing board relief for Sherry Riddle at 40 Essex Place. Here, the applicant is seeking relief to permit construction of an approximately 14 by 16 foot open wooden deck and to maintain a 3.3 feet rear yard setback, which exceeds the requirements by 11.7 feet. The applicant explained that the back of the lot floods and that the fix for that is not out of the question or her control, as the drainage does not come from her property. She has addressed the situation with their HOA and received approval from them to implement the application. She also expressed her support from her neighbors, and the PC expressed concerns that the wet area is not being addressed and suggested the applicant have an engineer or landscaper review the situation prior to going to the zoning hearing board. The consensus of the commission was to support the application, provided the applicant explores the suggestions made by the PC prior to appearing before the zoning hearing board. The second item, zoning hearing board relief, was for Martin Becker, 25 Gaux Lane, where here the applicant is seeking relief in connection with the subdivision of a 5.162 acre parcel, creating a 2-lot subdivision where one lot will be 22.660 acres and the second lot will be 2.005 acres with a proposed single family home. There are 3 variance requests sought related to the dimensional requirements of the CM district: maximum gross density, building envelope requirements, and minimum required open space. The applicant explained due to the environmental features on the property, there is accessibility issues with the property and cannot be used without subdivision. He also said all environmental testing for septic has been completed. In this particular case, there was no clear consensus to take no position among the commission. Nothing was opposed, but it was not a unanimous consensus for this application. Primarily, it was the environmental infringements and the concerns for safeguarding the environment. The commission also discussed the JMZO Amendment E30 convenience store fueling station use after the Board of Supervisors had an opportunity to review the red line version. I commended the planning commissions for the time and effort that they put into this use, and Mr. Schenkman advised that the matter is now in the hands of Board of Supervisors, and that the PC will have no further involvement unless directed by the Board of Supervisors. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thanks, Al. Alan, I just noticed up at the top, usually there's the list of members. Did you have a quorum that night?
Yes, we did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did have a quorum, and I guess Maureen forgot to include but you know, it has worked very well for the commission to meet via Zoom. And there has been some concern expressed by a few of my members that have underlying medical issues. And if we do go to the phased in public meeting, their suggestion is that we still have a Zoom opportunity for those people that feel that they do not want to risk exposure, but they would like to continue to serve the community and the Planning Commission. So I didn't know if you've already discussed that option or how we're going to proceed, but you know, I just thought I would share that with you.
Well, I mean, you're the chair. If you want to have the meetings via Zoom, that's your decision. But there's also other ways of which we've done it in the past. If someone cannot attend, they can call in on a conference phone and participate. That we've done that in the past with some members who, you know, are away on work or cannot make a meeting. So I mean, again, I'd leave that up to you. I think if you want to continue for a while via Zoom, that's fine. We don't want to endanger anyone or force anyone to come.
I commend those people that had the concern, because they say they really want to continue to do what they can for the Planning Commission, and I respected that. And maybe I will check with Micah and Maureen and see what the best and most convenient options. I have no problem with Zoom meetings, but I know some of the things that may be controversial, you know, a lot of the public doesn't really email in questions and get them read into the record. Much different than if, you know, they have the option to appear before the commission. So thanks a lot, Phil.
Any questions for Al? Well, he left. He's gone.
No. Did you leave? Don't leave.
Alan.
I had a question too.
Hey, Dennis.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I did.
Dennis, you want to go first, Dennis? Go ahead.
Yes, if I could. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Dennis.
Okay, good. Was there any public comment around the issue for 25 Goss Lane?
No, there were no email public comments that we received by 4:30 the day of the meeting. So there were no, and the applicant did say that, you know, he has a good relationship with his neighbors. It's what he is proposing is in character with what is surrounding them. And of course, you know, Gox Lane is one of the older small subdivisions that have their own undedicated street, and they maintain it. And, you know, I think they work together very well. And I think that the applicant will get letters of support and, you know, in terms of keeping in character with what is in the neighborhood.
Well, can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
I mean, several members said they were okay with this, fine if pending neighbor support. And I don't know if you're aware, but 5 neighbors on Gox Lane sent an email to me, and I assume other supervisors, opposing this variance. Mm-hmm. And it was sent on June 23rd. I think I sent you a copy there were 5 neighbors on Gox Lane. I don't know how many people live on Gox Lane, but the applicant seemed to say he had no opposition from his neighbors, whereas this letter
Contradict that. Yes.
seems to say otherwise.
Yeah. I did not receive that email prior to the meeting. I do not believe. I can go back and double check. But if they had presented an email, we could have read it into the record, and it may have, had a different impact on the rest of the commission.
Well, have other supervisors received that letter?
I have
That
no
email?
idea.
I have, and that's why I asked my question, because I thought maybe that was the one that Micah had that he was going to read later.
I received it as well.
I haven't seen it. I'll look for it.
And there was some discussion also at your meeting. People were opposed, at least 2 members were opposed due to the conservation management issues that doesn't conform to that. And the email that we got specifically said that this wasn't a hardship, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know all the legal ramifications and so on, but if five of their neighbors are opposed to this, it seems a little fishy that this applicant would say his neighbors seem okay with it.
Okay. And again, I think that's great that the Board of Supervisors have received the letter. And if you feel like taking a position, or if you suggest that when the Zoning Hearing Board meets, that they participate and explain to the commission why they don't think the hardship exists. So
That's coming up on our agenda, as a matter of fact, the applications.
okay.
Okay. Anything else for Alan? Or?
The other thing was discussed, I think, at the May 27th Board of Supervisors meeting, Alan. You discussed the ad hoc group, Saldo ad hoc group by Jan Filios, and you were discussing invasive species and native plants and in relation to the comprehensive plan. And I think that meeting was on May 28th. Do you have any further information on that? I don't know if you did go to that meeting, and is there anything relevant that we should know about?
Certainly, John. We actually have a Zoom meeting, Jan, Catherine, and myself, to take a look at the recommendations that EAC would be making regarding the comprehensive plan, and the statement would directly be related to the use of native non-invasive species in open space areas and preservation of open space, and also then recommending a list of plant species that are consistent with what is successful in growing in southeastern PA. A lot of the plant lists that are put out by Pennsylvania Department are generic for the entire state. And there's so many microclimate zones within the state of Pennsylvania that Canadian hemlock, which is one of the suggested species to be included, does not perform well in southeastern PA. It's a highland tree that requires a lot of moisture, but not a lot of humidity. And that's not what we have in southeastern PA. So fine-tuning the list, I think, is what the EAC wants to do so that the comprehensive plan reflects what really works for the jointure property owners and the community at large. So I think that's the purpose. And once they are satisfied, they will, of course, present that to you as the board. And if you direct the Planning Commission to get involved and look at updating the Saldo list of plants that are approved for land development, it may need a modification to omit some things and add some new particular plants. So that's basically, I think, the direction that EAC would like to proceed, and they're ready to do the job when they're directed by you folks.
Well, I mean, the EAC hasn't met for a while because there was nothing supposedly on the agenda to discuss, but I assume that this should be on the agenda. Is Jan and maybe you ready to report to the EAC? And I guess that's the process. The EAC would look this over and then get the Planning Commission involved before the Board of Supervisors, because I know that the JMZO is moving forward with the Bucks County Planning Commission to revise the comprehensive plan. And if this is part of it, we need to get this done, I assume, according to whatever timeline exists for modifying the comprehensive plan. And I'm just not quite sure where we are in that timeline.
Again, I guess if the chair of the EAC can call a meeting to have this discussion and make a firm recommendation to the planning commissioner or the board, I'm not sure whether it goes from the EAC to the board and the board directs the planning commission to get involved with revisions or additions or discussions at least. And then that I think is the privilege of the Board of Supervisors to direct how you would like to proceed.
Okay, well, first, Mike, is there a scheduled meeting for the EAC that hasn't been canceled, or can we uncancel it if there is one coming up?
That's up to the individual chairman of that committee. I sent out
As a liaison, I would contact that chairperson, but
we
what
have
is the,
contacted that chairperson. We sent them an email yesterday with their options moving forward.
okay. So can you
Yeah,
just
that's
tell
what
me
I
when the
think
next
is-
scheduled meeting is supposed to be on the calendar there?
I believe it's the second Monday of the month.
Okay. So, all right, so.
So just to clarify really quick, what goes into the comprehensive plan is sort of a recommendation of the types of plants. It's not the specific plant list that Alan's referring to. What Alan's referring to is the plant list that's incorporated into the subdivision land development ordinance, which can be modified at any point by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. I've only been here 3 years, so I don't know all the ins and outs.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thanks, Alan.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. For Alan
The-
or?
Well, yeah, I guess Alan. But Alan didn't see the email from the Ames family for the issue on Gawk's Lane. So how do we proceed with that when there's?
Is this in regards to that? Because again, it is coming up on the.
Okay.
Well, we can
All right.
discuss it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so this way we don't have to hold Alan up if we don't.
Sure. Okay.
That's all right.
All right, thanks, Alan.
All righty. Have a good afternoon and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you.
See you, Alan.
So long.
Okay, engineers report.
Thank you. I have no agenda items. I did want to note that for the road program, we did open bids last week and we're still in the process of reviewing those bids. They came in below our cost estimate, so that's great. So we're still in the process of reviewing, but hopefully at our next meeting, we'll have a recommendation for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a
Any
quick
questions?
question?
Yes, absolutely.
Leanna, from just ballpark, is it weeks or months usually from the time you open bids to actual work being done?
Maybe probably a month by the time that it usually depends on how quickly it gets awarded, after you open bids. So we'll probably be awarding maybe 2 weeks after we opened bids. So maybe another 3 to 4 weeks just to get contracts, ready. Certainly that can go as quick or as slow as you would like as well.
Great, thanks.
Leanne, I see some along Lower Darlington Road, there were markers and so on, surveys done. I guess you've completed all that work that you were supposed to do to make it ready for this project of making a trail along Lower Darlington?
Yes, we performed our field survey and right now we are getting the preliminary layout together. So we're kind of in that step right now.
Is there any timeline for that? I know we're applying for an additional grant, but is there going to be worked on before we know about that grant, whether we received it or not?
Yeah, so the grant that we're going to apply for is due, now it's due in September, so we'll be working on that over the next month. I anticipate us having the preliminary design as well as some permitting, and probably really most of the design will be complete before we'll hear from that grant. We'll probably find out if they decide to award, depending on the whole COVID and the funding situation, maybe at the end of this year for that grant. So hopefully at that time we can assess, if we do get the grant at that time, if we want to, construct further.
So basically, nothing is really going to happen with that trail until next year, maybe in the spring, if things go
Yeah,
well.
construction wise, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else for Leanna? On to the solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on our report this afternoon is the outdoor sales/dining resolution. Recall at the board's last meeting, you reviewed a draft resolution that would allow a relaxation of the zoning requirements, et cetera, for outdoor sales of merchandise and outdoor dining during the COVID-19 crisis. You requested that we make small revisions to that resolution, including the removal of a 6-foot wide spacing requirement. We made that revision, and now the resolution is back before the board for consideration. If appropriate, it would require a motion to adopt the resolution.
Such a motion?
I'll make that
So
motion.
moved.
A motion?
Second.
Okay. Okay, so up for discussion. Anybody have questions in regards to this resolution?
Yeah, I do. If you could just help explain something on page 2, or item F, says a merchant seeking to use outdoor space to conduct outdoor sales of merchandise and/or outdoor dining shall abide by nuisance regulations found in the Newtown Township Code of Ordinances. Can you just briefly summarize what's in that nuisance ordinance? What do you mean by a nuisance?
Well, nuisance can be any kind of adverse effect on surrounding property owners and the public. I would guess that would be restricted to noise, smoke, odor, gases, that kind of thing. Those are the typical nuisances.
Okay. Also, I just looked on there and I saw item H on page 2 and Roman numeral 5 on page 3 seem to be redundant. Is that?
Yeah, this is a strange one because usually we don't have an automatic sunset provision in a resolution. Normally it goes into effect and it remains in effect. In this one, in the version that I used to assist me in drafting this, recall came from Montgomery Township, Montgomery County, and it contained the expiration date both in the body of the resolution and as Roman numeral 5, which we wanted to add just to buttress the fact that it's going to take effect immediately, but it's automatically repealed within 90 days. I think the first one says that it shall expire in 90 days. The other one says that it automatically repealed. So while John, your point is a good one, but I don't think it's that big of a deal that we have to start playing with that language.
Okay.
I'd rather say it too many times than not enough.
Any other questions for Mr. Sander?
Sounds like what we discussed at the last meeting. Thanks, Dave.
All right, if no further questions, I guess nothing in from the public on this one here, Mr. Lewis. Okay.
No, there's no comment.
Gotcha. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Second item is the review of the zoning hearing board applications that you heard Mr. Fiddler report on. The first one is the application of Sherry Riddle, 40 Essex Place in Headley Trace. She's seeking a variance to allow a proposed open wooden deck to encroach 11.7 feet into the required 15-foot rear yard setback. Does the board wish to take any action with regard to that application?
I think you hear none.
I'm hearing a great silence, not
Okay.
even crickets.
Mm.
Second application is one that I think we've already had a little bit of peripheral discussion on. Application of Martin Becker at 25 Gaux Lane. He proposes a 2-lot subdivision, but that's separate from the zoning hearing board relief. The subdivision is going to have to come in front of the Board of Supervisors. It's a minor subdivision that a plan will be filed. All of the subdivision reviews will be undertaken, and you'll get a chance to decide whether that subdivision is good. This gentleman wishes to build one house on a property that it's 3-acre zoning in the CM, and this house will be on 2-point-something acres instead of 3 acres, and it will result in a density of 0.4 dwelling units per acre, where 0.33 units is required, which I would, if you ask my opinion, I would view as de minimis in its request. The second variance is to allow a minimum building envelope, which is the area in which you can actually build a house so that it doesn't take into consideration wetlands or wooded areas or other undevelopable areas. Of a 20,000 square foot building envelope is required on this property. And again, I'm assuming that it's because of environmental factors that they're requesting a 6,329 square foot building envelope. Obviously, the house will not be 6,329 square feet. That's just the envelope in which the building can be constructed. Finally, the final variance is to allow 28,800 square feet of non-deed restricted open space, where a minimum of 30,000 square feet is required. Again, I would opine that that is borderline de minimis variance. I understand that neighbors have objected, as neighbors often will. In my general advice to the Board of Supervisors is to reserve active opposition in sending the solicitor to zoning hearing boards to issues that are of much broader impact to the residents of Newtown Township, not necessarily neighbor versus neighbor issues. I would also advise that the township is a party to every zoning hearing, and that if the zoning hearing board makes a decision that the Board of Supervisors does not like, the Board of Supervisors may appeal that decision without having participated before the before the zoning hearing board on the hearing level. So with that background and that advice, I would ask for comments on whether the board wishes to take any action on this.
Yeah, I have no problem with it going before the zoning hearing board.
Well, the procedure that you outline is good to know, but this is not just neighbor versus neighbor, although there were 5 neighbors who sent this letter. Perhaps they will send it to the zoning hearing board too. I do not know.
Oh, I'm sure they will, John. I'm sure.
But
it's going to the zoning hearing board, so they'll send them. They'll show up.
Also at the Planning Commission was discussed the conservation management concept, and at least 2 of the members of the commission expressed opposition because it violates, no matter how small, the conservation management guidelines. And as you know, that would be a matter for the entire Newtown community to think about how they want to encroach upon zones that are, supposedly set aside for conservation management. So, I don't know if we need to take any particular action. one way or another, but I would just hopefully people would be able to get invited to the zoning hearing board meeting. Next meeting, I guess, is going to be soon by Zoom. And
July 9th.
I heard complaints from other residents. I received email, and I don't know if others have, about how difficult it was for them to make comments at the zoning hearing board meeting, and they felt excluded. And, you know, I'm a bit concerned about that because I myself was shut down at a zoning hearing board meeting. I know, you know, a lot of people would like me to shut up, but, you know, you have to give people the opportunity to voice their opinion. It's a public meeting. So I'm just a bit concerned about how some of these meetings are run, that's all.
Understood.
Kyle, you have any problem with the zoning hearing board?
No, I don't.
Dennis, any problem?
I do not. I did like Alan's suggestion.
Okay. David, any problem with the zoning hearing board?
No, no problem. I just have a question, Mr. Chairman. So zoning hearing board makes their ruling on this matter, and then it comes to us and we can basically discuss it further. Is that accurate or no? I missed that part.
Yes, David. As I said, according to the municipality's planning code, the township is automatically a party to every zoning hearing board application, whether it participates before the zoning hearing board or not. So that when the zoning hearing board issues its written decision and the 30-day clock for appealing that decision starts running, the township can review that opinion, discuss it, and determine whether it wishes to file an appeal from that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Seems like you have a consensus.
Okay.
I think 4-1. Mr. Mack, you okay with it going to the zoning hearing board?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Chairman, if I may, this is the second public comment that I had discussed or talked about before refers to this, and I believe it is the same letter that was sent to all of you. So would you like me to read that now or wait till the second session of public comment?
Well, has everyone read that email? Or did you want to read it into the record? I mean, since we're discussing it, maybe this is the appropriate time to.
Yeah, I can read it into the record. Bear with me, it's fairly long. This is written and submitted by Tom Ames. His address is 61 Gaux Lane. We are property owners and residents on the private road known as Gaux Lane on the eastern edge of the township. There are 7 parcels on the private section of the lane, one of which is 25 Gaux Lane. We strongly urge the supervisors to oppose the variances requested by 25 Gaux Lane property owner to be heard by the Newtown Township Zoning Hearing Board at the July 2020 meeting. We note that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code allows zoning hearing board to grant variances to zoning ordinances if an applicant alleges that the provision of the zoning ordinance inflicts unnecessary hardship. Section 910.2 lists 5 findings, all of which must be met prior to granting variances. Section 910.2 includes the following: that because of such physical circumstances or conditions, there is no possibility that the property can be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of the zoning ordinance, and that the authorization of a variance is therefore necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. The property at tax map parcel 2916-3 already is developed and used as a single-family detached residence. This finding required in section 910.2 cannot be made because the property can be reasonably used within the provisions of the zoning ordinance. Conservation Management District is a residential district and the property at tax map parcel 2916-3 has been used as a single family detached residence for well over 40 years. The current owner has either used it as a rental property residence since he purchased it in 1980. The applicant nor the current use of the property does not support a finding that a hardship exists within which would support the variance. Most of the parcels along the private portion of Gaux Lane has essentially existed in their current state since 1979. Parcels in the neighborhood were created with their current use, single-family detached residential, before the CM district was enacted. We also note that the applicant inferred during the 6/16/20 Planning Commission meeting that the parcel can't reasonably be used due to environmental conditions such as wetlands, and that this hardship was the reason for the variance request. We note that these conditions, man-made pond and stream, for example, existed before the current owner purchased the property in 1980 and should have been taken into account prior to property acquisition. They do not now support a hardship determination. We ask that the supervisors oppose the variances requested by the property owner at 25 Gaux Lane, Newtown. And then there are five, I'm assuming neighboring residents that are attached to the bottom of the email.
Thank you. Gaux Lane, is that a township road?
To my understanding, yes, it is a township-owned road.
That's maintained by the township? Do we plow it or?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so it's not a private road.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you for reading that. I see Matt Peters has popped on. Matt, we did discuss the Economic Development Committee. I didn't. Were you aware it's 1 o'clock, not 2 o'clock, or?
I had down on my schedule it was 2 o'clock, and then when I saw when I logged in here and I saw it was going, I must have not set it on my calendar correctly. I have the synopsis from our meeting here if I need to present that.
Well, we already, the one that was done by Mary Donaldson, we already read that into the meeting.
Okay.
If you have a few remarks that you want to make, since you're here, I'll let you go ahead and do that.
I would say probably just an update. Would I then be asked to provide any updates, since then? Because there have been some updates since our meeting to today. Both the chair and myself.
Honestly, I think you should incorporate that into your next meeting, so this way you have it recorded in minutes, and then
Okay.
I know you have a co-chair, whoever that person, whether it's you or Eric, would show up and give a report to the Board of Supervisors pertaining to that official meeting that you may have had.
Yes. Okay.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah, that all makes sense. I'm just getting used to the process of how the reporting is done, so I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mack, you had a question?
Yeah, I would note that Matt is going to speak at one of the NBA Emerging Business Leader Facebook meetings in July on how businesses fund government agencies through tax revenue. I guess you might be using Newtown Township as an example. It'd be good for people to understand that. But I wanted to ask you a question. I think this was discussed at the recent meeting about how the EDC can work in coordination with the Finance Committee. Can you talk a little bit about that? What your opinion is of that?
Sure, absolutely, yes. Some of my opinions on that are and these are obviously my opinions, but if the revenue is not able to be brought in from businesses through EIT taxes, then my thinking is the next logical step would be a raising of property taxes to property owners, and that would be the only other way that some of the revenues could be recouped without opening things up more for more business spending in some way to encourage any sort of raise in EIT revenue. Part of my presentation that I'll be doing, and it will be on July 10th. Part of my presentation will also use not only Newtown Township as an example, but I also used to be a resident of Westchester, Pennsylvania, and I saw some of the growing pains from the perspective of both a resident, a taxpayer, but also I had interned with a radio station at the time, a local radio station, an AM station, and they had a lot of talks about things that were directly involving the town and how it was growing with relation to the college in Westchester, things like parking garages and new buildings. So I got to see how that stuff boiled out in that, in that arena, and now I'm getting to see it here. So I think that the talk I'll be giving will be informative to a lot of people, because a lot of people might not understand how the local township or the local municipality provides services to people, and how, a decrease in EIT revenue doesn't just mean, less taxes. It means, less EMTs, or less police officers, or less services that the township is able to provide. And not everyone is, I believe, in my opinion, fully realizing the amount of services that could be removed from any municipality if the revenue is decreased from taxes, or from any increase, in that, or decrease, I mean, would need to be made up somehow. Any municipality can't pull a deficit for too long, so it's going to have to come from property taxes, which would then mean people have less money to spend on businesses. So it's a tricky spiral, in my opinion.
Yes, a slippery slope maybe. But specifically, I wanted to mention that in terms of the two committees, they have different purviews, as
Yes.
Mr. Calabro mentioned at the last meeting. But I note that Mr. Dick Weaver is on both the Finance Committee and the EDC, and I expect that basically, if the two committees can have use him as a liaison, it would benefit to understand what each committee is doing, I guess.
Correct. Yes, because we're going to have to work very, very close in hand with the Finance Committee. So it was my suggestion that either myself or Eric, the co-chair, also sits in along with our regular liaison for those committee meetings. So that way we'll have quicker reporting. We won't have to wait on the either the minutes to be circulated or any memos to be reported. We'll be able to get the info directly and act on it, because a lot of these things need to be put into play very quickly for anything to be done, I think.
Well, also, you don't want to duplicate efforts, so
Correct.
It's better to coordinate.
Yes, that's the other thing, just to avoid any redundancies.
Matt, but please just remember that minutes are important. Don't do
yes.
anything without having minutes. Also, I think that maybe somebody from your committee, maybe you or the other co-chair or someone else, doesn't have to be necessarily the co-chairs. I would suggest maybe attending the jointure meetings, because with the comprehensive plan going into motion, economic development is a very important aspect of that. Also, you may want to talk to Alan Fiddler at the Planning Commission. I think the three important committees would be the Economic Development, the Finance, and the Planning Commission, which again kind of work in tandem. And again, not that you have to go to every meeting, but maybe just be informed of what's happening.
Yeah, we definitely need to communicate.
Okay.
So Alan Fiddler's planning. Who would I need to talk to about jointure?
Jointure would be Chester Poganowski. He's the chairman. But the jointure meeting is always the first Thursday of the month at 7:30 at the Wrightstown Municipal Building. And you can just show up. But maybe, I don't know if John or Jerry want to contact Chester about putting Matt and Eric on the email blast that we get, so this way they are aware of the meetings.
I can talk to Chester about. I'm not sure if they have physical meetings coming up or.
Last one was a Zoom, but still he'd have to get an email about that. So,
all right,
to be invited in on the Zoom. Okay, Matt, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it, and
thank you.
We'll make sure we get the proper information to you the next time.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
I'm going to try to make one of the next economic development meetings too. So should be fun.
On to manager's report, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General fund balance as of today is $2,236,606. Plan expiration reports before the board with no action required.
Question on the plan expiration. I think I may be one of the only ones that look at this thing, but I still notice Toll Brothers, and you know, I know that we're lagging behind on hearing their situation, but what is the status? I mean, are they contacting you? Are they? I'm assuming they want to get this moving, but I just wanted to bring that up. And also, not to say it's going to extend into September, but it looks like in September we have Arcadia coming up too. So these two are two important and touchy developments that are going to be happening. And I just wonder if you had an update on either one.
Toll Brothers has granted an indefinite extension till the next live Board of Supervisors meeting. They have been consistently reaching out to me and to Mr. Sander, asking about the possibility of a meeting. So we've been telling them that we've been meeting via Zoom, and it hasn't been determined when we'll be meeting live again. Mr. Sander, I don't know if you have anything else to chime in on that, but that's really where the status is at right now.
Correct, Mr. Lewis. Let me remind the board that the board heard the entire conditional use hearing. We're not talking about going on with the hearing. The only thing left to do is make a decision. The reason a decision wasn't made was because a long list of folks showed up at a public meeting back before COVID, and the board felt that it was wise to hear their comments and take them under advisement. Those comments are not on the record. It was somewhat of a courtesy to the folks that had public comment on the motion. I believe there was a motion to approve the conditional use with a number of conditions that I had read into the motion. It was moved and seconded, and that's when public comment took place, and the board decided to table its decision. Toll granted, as Mr. Lewis said, an extension until the first in-person meeting of the Board of Supervisors for the board to render that decision, and then a written decision that would be authored by me and signed by the board will be due within 45 days of that verbal decision being made at a meeting. So that's the status of where we stand on this matter. Again, I don't know. I don't think you could say 100% of municipalities are continuing to hold remote meetings. I'd say 95% of them are. There may be some exceptions, but right now, especially the way things are going and the extension of Governor Wolf's emergency order to September 2nd, that's where we are with Toll Brothers.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Okay, yeah, Micah. I'm sorry. Those are my questions on the plan expiration, the boring plan expiration report.
And for the record, I do look them over.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Me too. Just to let you know that, buddy. Thanks.
All right, so I have two other items under my agenda for the board's consideration. The first of which is to sell a few more of our used vehicles. One is a 2009 Chevrolet Impala police vehicle and a 2003 Ford F-350 from Public Works. So the appropriate motion would be motion to approve the sale of used equipment on Municibid, municibid.com.
Okay, these would include both at one time, or do we need two separates?
No, you can do both at one time.
Okay. Do I have such a motion? Have a second?
Second.
Motion a second. Micah, are we getting a good deal? Are we getting good money on these?
Well, the F-550 that we sold recently, we sold for roughly $15,000. So, we had budgeted a total of 10,000 in the budget for revenues, and so we've already exceeded the budgeted revenue line for that item. So we've seen comparable F-350s on that site selling for more than $10,000 a piece. So hopefully we'll be in that same ballpark. The Impala, I'm not too confident that we'll get much more than $1,500, maybe $2,000 for it, but the 350 potentially could push us far over our budgeted revenue line.
Great. Any other question? I had a motion and second. Any further questions from the board? From the public? Anybody chime in on this one?
No.
Okay. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
The other item I have under my report is if you recall, the EIC had proposed several native plantings within Helen Randall Park. In the packets for the meeting today is a diagram and copies of what had been sent to my office by Mrs. Filios. We've looked over the arrangement of the plantings, and myself and the Public Works Director. We have no issue with it. So now it just needs the final blessing by the Board of Supervisors.
Do I have a motion?
So I make a motion to approve this?
Sure. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions from the board?
I have a question for Micah. I'm sure he can answer this. Seeing that this is all about native plants, I'm guessing that all these species of trees are all native.
That's correct.
Any further questions? Any questions? Anybody from the public email in?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
I have a question for you, Micah, on your management report dated June 19th regarding the 5-year financial plan surveys. You say that they completed a resident and business survey for a 5-year financial study. They would like to distribute them for completion by the community by the end of next week. That would be this week then? Is that what's proposed there?
Yes. So they're in the process of amending that the surveys, and they're going to redistribute the draft before it's I guess live, you could call it.
Okay, I just wanted to inquire about that because I know we discussed some of these things when the Planning Commission submitted the similar survey at the September 16th, 2019, and specifically with regard to one of the questions. So I wanted to make sure that was something that would be addressed.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd just like to take 1 second and thank our staff, consultants, the board, and especially the public for bearing with all of us during these challenging times as we finally moved to green here. I realize that it's been very frustrating for a lot of businesses, for a lot of my staff, for a lot of residents, and I just want everybody to know that, you know, we're doing the best we can here to continue to provide those services that we typically have. And as we move into green, hopefully there's better days ahead and that we all are getting through this.
Well, thank you. And I personally appreciate all you've done. And I'm sure the board appreciates it, that you've been there every day, haven't missed a day. And I know we've been running on skeleton crew, but the people that have been coming in have been doing an excellent job. I don't think we've been missing a beat. And then the public understands. I'm sure they do. So being that you're there I think that's just an added plus anyway. So thank you, and thank all the staff and the police department, fire department. They all deserve our thanks. So.
Yep. Even though we weren't physically in the office at all times, I mean, we were all still working together as a cohesive team. So I appreciate everybody's assistance with all of this.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job. You and your team are doing a great job, Micah. Thanks.
Thank you, Kyle.
You deserve all the congratulations, the whole team. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
Ditto.
Ross and the team. Great job.
Any other thanks before we move on?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Minutes, bills, list, and reports. Mr. Mack.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes of the June 10th, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any questions from the board in regard to the minutes? Anything from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2020 Board of Supervisors work session meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions from the board? From the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay, regarding the bills list, I move that we approve the payment of our bills according to the bills list dated June 24th, 2020, totaling $122,141.18.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions on the bills list?
I just have a couple of minor questions. On page 4, there's building code inspections, an invoice for $9,933.41. I thought there was inspections were kind of halted during this COVID-19. Am I mistaken?
Micah, you're on mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute. Micah. You're on mute, Micah. There you go.
Under Remington Vernick Engineers,
Yes, correct.
that's the building code inspection. We have
Right.
down in that department since, what was it, May 1st, that we were allowed to move back into construction.
Okay, so this is since May 1st regarding mostly, I guess, the village shopping center?
This is all anybody that comes in with any modification to an internal portion of a building, the building, the architectural portion of any site to site.
And that's been going on since May 1st.
I believe, I don't remember exactly which date construction was allowed to reopen under the governor's reopening plan. They've been here since that date.
Okay, it's just that $9,000 so is almost $10,000. Okay, the other question I had on page 4 was Plan Services Durham Partners by Seidel Planning and Design, an invoice for $3,976. I mean, since we brought up this Durham Partners development, is that related to that?
That's the professional planner that the board hired to oppose the application.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions on the bills list? Any questions from the public on the bills list? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay. Finally, I move that we approve the interfund transfers as per the bills list dated June 24th, 2020, totaling $212,270.00.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board? From the public? Gather none. All right, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Mack. Any public comment?
There is one more public comment, Mr. Chairman. This is again from Tom Ames. He says, Mr. Lewis, Gaux Lane is not completely a township-owned road. Only the portion closest to 532 is owned by the township. Most of Gaux Lane is not maintained by the township. parcels starting at 17 Gaux Lane and above are on a private portion of the lane. I stand corrected if that's the case.
Okay, thank you for that public comment. Is that the only one? Nothing else? Nothing else?
That's all.
Okay, great. On the old business, I included the July 8th possible live meeting of the board, but in the meantime, I had Micah and Olivia do a somewhat of a, I'll call it a survey of the other townships in the area, Northampton, Lower Makefield, I think Buckingham, and it seems that the consensus is that they are still going to have Zoom. So I see that maybe Newtown Township doesn't need to rush into having a live meeting, at least for the first week of July. We could see how things progress during the rest of the month. But I mean, if we proceed, I think we also have to take into consideration, we do have something sitting out there like a Toll Brothers and Arcadia may be coming up soon. Hopefully it doesn't go as far as the end of September, but you know, we may have to consider having these on the agenda if we're not going to meet pretty soon. So as of now, doesn't matter. We're going to continue with Zooms until we see a lot of our neighboring townships going ahead with live meetings. But so far, everything should be via Zoom in regards to our regular meetings and our work sessions.
Phil, I had a question because usually in July and August, things slow down business-wise, and we only have one meeting. You anticipate that may be the case this summer?
Yeah, well, we usually determine that on the first meeting of the month, and if Micah doesn't see anything pressing on the agenda for the end of the month, then we'll vote on, you know, not having the second meeting of July, and we'll do the same thing in August if the need be. So
Okay, thanks.
okay. That's all I had for old business. Anybody else have anything on their old business? Anything for new business?
Yeah, I just was thinking, our earlier conversation about conflict. In the past, I forget how many years ago there was talk of having an ethics code of conduct for the board. And I'm just throwing it out there, reminding everybody about that. Maybe that's something we look at, or look at forming an ethics committee to review interactions between elected officials and businesses. Just some ideas that occurred to me today. Nothing, you know, I'm looking to move on. Just thought I'd mention that.
No, good question. I would ethics come under the human relations? I mean, again,
No.
formulating a whole new committee, as we all know, takes time. And you know,
it would fall under the. I'm sorry, Phil. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, can the Board of Supervisors act as an ethics committee?
No, I don't know. I don't know that you need an ethics committee. The ethics of the township's elected officials and officers is governed by the state Ethics Act, and there's a state ethics commission to which not only complaints can be filed, but also advisory opinions can be requested and issued. So anytime there is an ethics question about what a board member or an elected official can or can't do, either it's answerable by reference to the Ethics Act itself, or we can submit or the official actually has to do it, submit a request for an opinion from the State Ethics Commission. I think that setting up a local ethics commission would be redundant, and frankly, I'm not sure there's statutory authority for it.
Okay. I don't know if that answered your question, Kyle, but.
No, I'm good, thanks. I just was throwing it out there.
I got it.
Do we have some ethics guidelines that I'm guessing we do, that we've adopted?
If you have if you have your Township of Second Class handbook, there is a section in there dealing with ethics. And honestly, from what I've read, I think only if you're accepting bribes or maybe, I don't know, caught in a precarious situation that you're, you know, violating the ethics rules for a supervisor. But I would just say if you guys got that handbook, you could also download it off of the website. In that handbook has a section on the ethics codes for a supervisor.
Well,
I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I also believe there was some resolution passed before I got on the board about the proper ethics of running board meetings, such as, you know, et cetera, how board members should address each other, et cetera, et cetera. And it says it's supposed to be maybe revised every year. So there's that also.
Yeah, if we see the need to. I mean, I don't even know if I voted for that. I thought it was, maybe I did. I just thought, again,
You
it's,
voted against it.
I may have, yeah, because again, I hate to say about who brought it up and whether they were ethical or not, but I just found it ironic, and I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get into it. So,
Just for general knowledge, there is a standalone state statute called the Public Official and Employee Ethics Act, and it is codified at 65 PA 1101 at SEEK, and it provides a lot of definitions, especially definition of conflict of interest, and talks about the establishment of the state Ethics Commission, what its powers and duties are, what penalties for violations are. So that is certainly available for anybody to look up online if you wish.
thank you, sir. Anything else on the new business? I'm assuming we do not have any reason for an executive session today. Mr. Sander? No? Okay.
No, not under any of my reports, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And without objection, I guess I'll take adjournment. So
Have a good day, everybody.
we're all
Okay.
adjourned. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy it. Looks like it's nice out there.
Be well, everybody.
Okay.
See you guys.